everybody? Lord Tremendous here. Got another book review here for you. This one is a book called Gehenna, however you want to say it, and it's by Dakota Bryant and John Parker. According to their own words, this is the first story in a universe that they have been crafting for the last 3.5 years. This book was published March 29th of 2019, so 3.5 years, so 2015, 2016 time frame. We have a lot more, or they have a lot more content they're waiting to write, and they are hoping that Gehenna is the launching off point that makes it happen for them. Please make sure to leave a review so we know what the reader is thinking and what they want. The print length is about 220 pages, and it is in the colonization science fiction ebooks, alien invasion, and colonization science fiction books categories. It's in those categories, according to Amazon anyway. I got it on Kindle Unlimited with my subscription, but it looks like you can get it on ebook format for $2.99 and in paperback for $9.99. Where to begin with this book? So basically, you encounter the main character is a piece of garbage. He is a lost alcoholic, prescription drug abusing scumbag. He's got no charisma. He's got no redeeming factors. He's got no hygiene. He's just crass, obnoxious, rude, foul-mouthed. Just there's nothing positive about this main character, and the authors do a great job conveying that right off the bat. You start off, and don't worry, these aren't really spoilers, because this is a non-spoiler side, I know, but you start off and he's seeing a therapist, and it's just, you think he's seeing a therapist to get better, but there's a different reason, and I'll get into that in the spoiler section. But long story short, the therapist thing really doesn't have anything to do but just further make you dislike this guy. And the farther you go in the book, he doesn't have a redeeming quality. There's no redeeming quality about this guy whatsoever. At one point, he kind of turns the page on that. He kind of 180s, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, without really being earned, he kind of starts getting the hero vibe, and then he fails at it miserably, which I gotta give the authors credit for realism, because this guy is a walking manifestation of failure. It's just there's really nothing to like about him. His name is Alistair, and it's a long book. It's only 220 pages, I know, but it feels longer. It's very, in my opinion, bloated. It has a lot of fluff in it, and the dialogue is just monotonous. For example, it would be something, a paragraph would be something along the lines of, Alistair looked into the mirror. Alistair was not pleased with what he saw. Alistair looked over at Meredith, and Meredith looked over at Alistair. Alistair, Meredith said to Alistair. Alistair, what are we going to do about what's happening? Alistair looked at Meredith sincerely. I don't know, Meredith, Alistair said. I'm very confused on what we should be doing, Meredith. It's stuff like that. That's not verbatim. That's not a quote, but it's constant use of their names. Alistair said this. Alistair went to do that. They don't use pronouns properly. They just keep using names, and the conversations are very one-dimensional. There's no personality in between the characters, and there's a lot of times where they'll yada 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 things, and it's very frustrating. The character will 1 minute he'll be you only ever see him acting like a scumbag, and the dialogue, he's always a scumbag. But apparently when he wants something from somebody, whether it's sex, money, drugs, alcohol, he's super charismatic and people just fawn over him. It says in the book that he's always been really good with women, and at one point he goes on a binger, and he's running from bar to bar and getting free drinks because he's so charismatic. But Then in the same paragraph, he's got pit stains and sweat stains on this holy, ratty, dirty shirt. He's got BO. He looks like crap. He hasn't showered in days, possibly weeks. But yeah, these men and women that he's going to these dive bars at, they just love him. And you never see that. It's just kind of yada, yada, yada in the background. And it's super frustrating because the picture that they're trying to paint behind the scenes is nothing like the main character, and he's never any good. And it's just everything that happens in this book, you just feel like you're on rails. It doesn't matter what he does because the authors are going to get you there. Whether it makes sense or not, they're going to get you to the point they want to get you to, and none of it feels earned. At one point in the book, at the very first 35% of the book, they really beat into your head how much of a scumbag he is and how he's a loner and he makes no friends and he doesn't care about anyone but himself. And it's like a defense mechanism and all this stuff. But then 44% of the way the book in or something like that, this guy Trevor shows up. This 17-year-old, nobody scumbag just like him, but, just down on his luck kid that Alistair has taken under his wing. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And, he really cares about this kid and he listens to him and he tells him all his stories and he's a really good kid and blah, blah, blah. And it's just kind of like, where the hell did this come from? Why? That's just nothing like what the character you've been jamming down my throat is like. And it drives you crazy. It just drives you crazy. It's very disjointed. It's very convoluted. And honestly, it's boorish. I did not like this story. It is really redundant. There's a lot of bloat. It's poorly. There was a lot of errors, not just spelling errors, but typos. Instead of a period, there was a forward slash. For working on it for 3.5 years, I would have expected a cleaner product. I'm sorry, it's true. I understand that it's self-published. I understand that it's the first time they wrote this book. I totally respect that, and I give a lot of leeway for that. But the amount of errors and words that weren't fully deleted when they were editing the book. So they did make an attempt. I got to give credit where it's due, but it's just they weren't fully finished deleting stuff, and it's just a lot of the word dad instead of dead. That happens multiple times in the book. It's frustrating. And if the story was better, it could be forgiven. It'd be easier to forgive it or at least accept it. But the longer you read it and the more just trash that the story becomes, the less you are to forgive it. I hate to say it. I really hate to say it because this book, you can feel the passion. There is passion. The authors definitely love their story. The problem is it's just not in my opinion, it's just not a good story. It's not well written. It's not well delivered. And the characters are all the same thing. They're just in different containers. Like Trevor could easily be mistaken for Alistair. Alistair could easily be mistaken for the love interest Meredith, although there's another love interest Emily, but they're all the same. It's just a different package and a different name. Another thing that this book does that absolutely drives me crazy is in the same paragraph, in multiple sentences, you'll switch perspective. 1 minute, it's Alistair's perspective. The next sentence, it's Meredith's. The third sentence, in the same paragraph, now you're back to Alistair. And the fourth sentence, you're seeing the antagonist. And it's just like, what? You get confused. I've had to reread paragraphs multiple times because it was just confusing. Whose character said this? Whose character saw this? Where is going on? What is happening? It needs a professional proofreader and editor. There is a story here. The idea is there. The core of this story is there. Unfortunately, in delivery, it just gets murdered, and it's unfun. It was a very difficult read. It was an unfun read. It was unrewarding, and because of that, I have to give it 1 star out of 5. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to be honest. These are integrity-based reviews, and I got to be honest. I didn't enjoy this book. I didn't enjoy the characters. I didn't enjoy how it began, how it went in the middle, at the end. And even though this book was only 220 pages, it felt like it was 800 because it's so full of bloat and just redundancies. And honestly, I felt cheated. I felt angry. I wasn't happy. with this book at all. There just wasn't anything about it. There is a story here. Like I said, the core of the book, the heart of the book is there. It's just been stabbed by a rusty spoon, and it's not doing well. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get more into it in the spoiler section. If you want to read this book, I highly suggest it. The link will be in the description. Go check it out. And when you're done, by all means, tell me if I'm right. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm in between, or just curse me out. Whichever you feel like doing, I'm fine with it. But I'm going to play an ad real quick, and then I'm going to get to the spoilers. So stick around. All right, in case you guys didn't already know, I am a self-published author, which is why I'm so passionate about self-published books. It's available on Amazon.com and paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. If you're interested, the link's in the description. I'd really appreciate it checked out, left a review. So get ready, spoilers are coming up next, so if you're still hearing the music stops, it's your fault. Alrighty, you're still here, so let's get to it. So this is spoilers. Remember that. It's important. So anyway, the book starts off and Alistair is talking to this guy, Gary. Don't get attached to Gary because he's only in the book for like the first 15 pages and then he's gone. Gary's a shrink. And you think Alistair is talking to Gary because he's trying to get better. And he talks to him for like 6-8 months in the book over a certain amount of sessions because it starts off from Gary's perspective. And the perspectives in this book are all over the place. So don't try to get your orientation or anything like that because it's just not going to happen. It's just spin yourself in circles and that way you'll always know what it feels like to read this book. So he's talking with Gary, who's a shrink, but he's telling Gary everything. Like, Alistair is half human, half alien, but he's not really an alien. His father is from a place called the Seven, and the Seven is a solar system they're from, and they named it the Seven because there's 7 original planets in their solar system. I know, super original. Anyway, they've been ruling this solar system, this galaxy, whatever, for generations, millions of years, whatever, a long ass time, and they're super evolved, they're super awesome, they've got great technology. You never effing see it, by the way. You don't think it, because they're about as evolved mentally and technologically and philosophy-wise as a regular human. But during all their breeding and everything like that, they started making basically what us, and they consider them the lost ones, genetically inferior species of these aliens, the original class. So they take us and they throw us on Earth because instead of exterminating their children, they just leave them on a planet to survive. Doesn't really go into detail how that happened. It ignores all the natural history of Earth, which the aliens call ERT, E-R-T. And they monitor us, they watch us, they abduct us and do anal probes, I'm sure, and all this other stuff. But for some reason, they watch us. To give birth to a lost one or something like that, and one of us is really like politically and socially humiliating. So a lot of the rich people and well-off people kind of hide that. So the leader of these aliens, Kakos, or however you want, Kakos, she gave birth to a child that was one of us, one of the lost ones, the genetically inferior children. And it's weird because it doesn't really tell you what's wrong with us other than we're violent and we don't have the ability to feel other people's feelings. I guess the lack of empathy, because they're able to mind meld with each other and exchange thoughts and feelings and stuff. But I guess since we're not able to do that, we are the lesser race. Like I said, it's very... The heart is there. The core of the story is there. It's just delivered very poorly. But long story short, the leader has a genetically inferior child that she removes to this other planet called Hell. H''LL. Like I said, not super original, but whatever. I get what they were going with. And they drops the guy there, and it's Hitler. The kid is Hitler. He went to Earth, he caused all that stuff, and then she made his death look like a suicide, although he did get to shoot his dog and his wife. But then she took him off of Earth, brought him to Hell, so he could sit there instead of dying because she loves her little lost one child. And that's where the kid stays and takes over that planet, and all sorts of atrocities happen there as well, because Hitler... So this kid is basically Adolf Hitler, and they're gearing him up to be the super bad guy of this story. The mom didn't like what was going on. She couldn't hide it anymore on Hell, so she develops these genetic weapons called mastodons that are basically huge pylons of pulverizing death, and they have a whole bunch of guns. Think any Godzilla movie what's it called? The big mechs with all the guns and weapons. They had a couple of movies out and they fight the things that come out of the ocean. That stuff. That's what these things are, only they're like 1,000 feet tall and indestructible. Or so you think. So she sends him down to this hell planet to kill and exterminate all life, and then she removes her son from there and just keeps him with her on the planet. And for some reason, that works for dozens of years. Until Alistair starts messing around on Earth. So Alistair, he's not really interested in Gary to get his life in order. He tells Gary a whole bunch of truth about the alien species and who we really are and what they do to us and why we're here and yada, yada, yada. Because he read from his alien father some journals that he left behind him. There's nothing wrong with his alien father, by the way. He's on Earth. He could come and talk to his dad whenever he wants, but his dad won't go and talk to him until... I'll get to that in a minute. So Alistair was using Gary to get prescription medication so that he could overdose on them, because that was the only way for him to feel good about him, is to be all messed up on prescription drugs and alcohol. So he's a raging alcoholic. He's a raging pill abuser. And but at the same time, he's super charismatic and everybody loves him and girls throw themselves at him and guys buy his drinks and whatever. I don't know what reality that this book is supposed to be set in, but wow, it must be high fantasy, because none of that is real. So anyway, after bumbling around and being a scumbag for about 40% of the book, here comes Trevor. Or here comes his dad anyway, Adam, A''DOM. It's a play off of Adam and Eve, right? Although they don't have anything to do with the population on Earth, but whatever. So Adam is there, that's his father, and he sends his minion, Grigori, to come and pick Alistair up and bring him to his stronghold, which is a hole in the ground in the middle of West Virginia. I don't know. Anyway, he doesn't want to go, he doesn't want to go, he doesn't want to go, and eventually Grigori drags him back so his dad can talk to him, and so his dad sees him and goes, we need to talk, but first you need to rest. And of course, his dad gets stabbed by some faceless whatever plot device and dies. This guy who's supposed to be super evolved and the leader of all these people, somebody just walks into his bedroom, literally, and stabs him in the heart. He doesn't even try to defend himself, and dies. Alistair, who hates his father, who's 30-something years old, never liked his father, never knew his father, grew up on his own, blah, 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 is suddenly just beside himself with grief about the death of his father. And then he's not. And then he is. And then he's not. And then he is. And then he's not. So he goes back home, he leaves, he goes back home, and you're going to love this. He leaves his compound, walks outside the compound, and what's outside to get him home, because they drove for like 20 hours to get where they're at from his house, which is a hole in the wall in a slum, by the way. It's a very attractive pilot woman in a plane that's just sitting there waiting for him. Why? Because her father could see the future and knew that she had to be there to fly him home. Yeah, the FAA was just fine with people randomly flying around the country without any kind of permission or whatever. So she's in a prop job. They're flying back to wherever the hell he lives, drinking whiskey. Of course, she's super attractive. He's saying nothing suave, nothing slick, nothing smooth, but she's thinking about throwing him a piece, but he chooses not to. And he gets home, and that's when Trevor gets introduced. His 17-year-old little buddy who he really cares about and has all these connections with that you've never heard of until this point. And they drink moonshine that comes out of effing nowhere, get really drunk, and Alistair's like, they killed my dad, so we're going to kill them. Come on, man. So Trevor's like, what are we doing? It just so happens that one of the people that the aliens like to abduct on the regular, although he has no idea when it could possibly happen, his words, not mine, he says we're gonna watch one of their science experiments, one of their victims that they like to take and do to inspect from time to time. We're gonna wait for them to leave their house and drive out to the location, and then when they get there, we're gonna jump the guys that come out and get them, and we're gonna kill them, and then we're gonna blow up one of their ships, and that'll teach the aliens that they can't hurt us. Now, in fairness, the character knows this is a terrible idea. This is a stupid idea. This is very poorly thought out. Yet they still do it. So Trevor's not really on board, but he gets super drunk, and then he goes with Alistair because no sooner did they have this conversation than the guy who lives just outside the window of Alistair's shitty little apartment gets the call to be inspected by the aliens and literally walks out and starts driving himself to the pickup location. So Alistair and Trevor run out of the house. They happen to find a Honda Accord that can be started with a screwdriver because that's the way it works. And they follow him, no problem. Alistair's drunk out of his mind, but he's able to follow him, no problem. They get to where the guy goes. They super stealth their way to the pickup point and end up killing both the aliens. Wonderful. Yeah, no problem. These super evolved, super slick, high technology aliens didn't see the drunks coming, got their asses kicked by them, and then got killed. Alistair has never killed anyone before, but he kills both aliens and doesn't bother him at all. I guess not everybody gets PTSD, but yeah, sure. So Alistair has no problem taking life. Trevor, during the fight, gets stabbed in the stomach and is bleeding out. So Alistair, who loves this kid more than himself all of a sudden, grabs him up, runs into the street, which is, of course, right effing there. And who comes picks him up but a beautiful woman, Meredith. She, of course, pulls over because she just had a hunch she was supposed to. Picks him up, this blood-coated guy carrying a kid with a stomach stab wound. She picks him up, takes him to the hospital, which is conveniently less than half an hour away. They get him into the hospital, and while he's sitting there, he tells him the kid got hurt, and he's got a stab wound in his stomach, and he's bleeding out. I need help. So the hospital takes him in. The nurse, of course, that admits his friend, it immediately finds Alistair attractive, although he's covered in blood. Yes, Meredith gave him a t-shirt to swap out, but his face, hands, and hair have bits of gore in them. It's in the book. Nobody questions that at all, though. Well, another day. So Trevor dies. He doesn't make it, which is, I got to give credit where it's due. That's realistic. I like that. So Trevor dies from his wounds, but that's it. The nurse comes out, the one that's attracted to him, because everyone's attracted to him for whatever reason. She comes out to this blood-soaked individual and says, I'm sorry, your friend didn't make it. Is there anything I can do for you? And he just gets all pissy and, Trevor, I will avenge you, and storms out. No cops come out. The doctor isn't the one that came out to talk to him. It was the nurse. No cops are involved. No cops are even looking for him because, people that die from stab wounds in the hospital, the doctors don't report that in this world because why would they? That would just be silly. So he gets out to the car where Meredith, parked, and she's flirting with him. She wants to mate with him. He's still got blood all over him. Never cleaned that off. I think the authors just forgot. Because it goes away. It's just gone. He never goes to the bathroom to clean up. Nothing ever happens. He changes his shirt, and I guess the gore and everything that was all over him and stuck in his hair just fell away. All his BO and his drunkenness and everything, that all went away. And they go to a sleazy motel that Meredith has money to get into. And of course, she's got a bug-out bag that has men and women's clothes in it because why? Plot. That's why. They of course hook up, and it's mind-blowing sex because of course it is. And then they plan, their to go back to his dad's compound and try to figure out their next move. Meredith gets pregnant, and of course, Alistair, this is the part where Alistair starts to kind of turn, like he might become the hero he's meant to be, but his plans are absolute garbage. What they come up with is, we need to build an army to fight Kakos and avenge my father and end this charade once and for all. But that's it. That's as far as the plan goes, and everything else is yada, yada, yada. The army they build, they just start showing the F up. He doesn't do anything. Nobody does anything. People just start showing up to join and fight and die. So yeah. Long story short, he does come up. This army just comes up. They don't really tell you how he's recruited. He's not going off and being charismatic or anything like that. They just show up and they end up fighting. And Meredith dies. His unborn child dies. Adolf Hitler dies. And the lady Keikos or whatever that he's going to kill kills herself. And since he didn't get to kill her with his own hands, he's got no satisfaction, no revenge, nothing. So everyone dies but him. And he's just useless. He doesn't do anything. And they kind of fail. So since she killed herself, she kind of makes it look like he killed her, although she didn't, or he didn't. And so the super sophisticated aliens are easily tricked by this, and they send the Mastodons to Earth to destroy everything. Alistair knows this is going to happen. Doesn't do anything about it. Abandons everyone and goes on a 2-week alcohol and drug-infused bender, bleh. And that's what he does for like 14 plus days or whatever. The people that are on the planet that survived find him and they still revere him as some sort of savior, although he's done nothing whatsoever, except for failed, drank, treated everyone like trash, and then behind the scenes apparently was super charismatic, like a car dealer on steroids. I don't know. The Mastodons show up on Earth, and they just start slaughtering everybody. They destroy the food, the water, the population, and in about a month, everyone's just barely holding on. There's pockets of resistance. The military is useless because these things are basically indestructible. There is rumors at one point that a couple of them have been taken down, so it's given some people hope, but most of the population of Earth is gone, and people are dying left, right, and center. Well, Alistair runs away from the compound he's been hiding at just in time for 2 Mastodons to show up and start blasting it, right? Just destroying it, wrecking it. And he throws a temper tantrum. And not just any temper tantrum, but the mightiest of mighty temper tantrums. And he... no training, no idea what he's doing. He's able to project himself into the Mastodons and destroy them. Yes, it hurts him to do that, but is his life in danger? No, because he's friggin' Alistair Superman. And so he kills both the Mastodons, saves the day, kinda. They come and rescue him because by doing so, he shreds his body. 2 more Mastodons show up out of friggin' nowhere because these things are massive but super fast, and they come in and they rescue him. And who, of course, is the rescuer? Remember the hot nurse that was in the hospital when he dropped off his friend who was stabbed in the stomach who died? She's there. And of course she's still attracted to him, and of course she still wants him because it's plot. And basically that's the end. That's how the book ends. It's a nightmare. It is a dumpster fire, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. I really wish there was something I could grab hold of and be like, this redeems the book, and it was awful. It was hard to read. It was hard to get through. I wanted to put it down. And I wanted to move on to another book because this is awful. And I hate giving reviews like this. I really do. But this one was just bad. I didn't enjoy the character because he never redeems himself. Everything is given to him. He is a Marty Sue, and not a good one. Just, it's not even that. He's not good at anything. It's just he's invincible. The authors literally are carrying him to the finish line. Everybody carries this guy for no reason. He does nothing to help anyone. He abandons people all the time. He's rude to everyone. The swear words are the only words that he uses with any real consistency, and he doesn't always use them right. He's an idiot, he's dumb, he's arrogant, he's obnoxious, he's like the worst kind of scumbag you could possibly have. And the authors are trying to paint him as some sort of messiah, some sort of savant, and he's literally gutter trash. And you can't get behind a hero like that. He's not an anti-hero, he's not even a catalyst, he's just garbage. And that's what it comes down to. It's just garbage. It's bad fan fiction, really bad fan fiction, and I didn't enjoy it at all. So unfortunately, I got to stick with my original review, 1 out of 5 stars, and I'm really only giving it one because there were some parts to the story where the authors were accurate. It was realistic. Trevor dying, realistic. Meredith and all them, his plan not working and everyone dying, realistic. Yeah, he doesn't ever succeed. He is a piece of garbage, and everything that he tries to do turns to trash and death. So yes, but that's it. And I could feel that they really did have passion in this story. It's just, in my opinion, it's not a good story. 1 star out of 5, and I'm not the final word. I am not the final authority on this stuff. These are all my opinions. By all means, get this book, read it yourself, check it out, and come back and tell me if you think I'm right. Come back and tell me if you think I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm a scumbag. I don't care. Tell me I'm the embodiment of Alistair. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. Just check it out and let's have a discussion about it. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. But as always, thanks.